Hello, welcome to Riff on Writing with Andi and Caroline. We answer your writing and publishing questions in 10 minutes or less. Although today we might be a little bit longer because we are talking with Andrea Freeman, who published her book of poetry with us recently called And Everything in Between. Welcome, Andrea.
Hello. Thank you guys for having me. I just can't believe we're actually like doing this, the journey that we've been on, and now we're finally like talking about something that's like physically out into the world. I just am so grateful for both of you for helping me get to that point.
We're honored. No, your book is lovely, and it's just a nice collection, and I don't use the word nice pejoratively. I just mean like it's a feel-good read. Like it makes you feel uplifted, I guess is a good word. So yeah, it's a beautiful book.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, tell us what inspired you to write it.
So this is by accident, this book. I was actually writing something at the time, and I was working at a job that was just not the best fit for me. So I would take bus rides into the Manhattan to go to work in New York. And while I was writing the other book, I was just starting to write poetry. It was just a way for me to release what was bothering me around the time that I was working at that job, things that were going on in my life. And it was a way for me to also be less anxious because the bus ride was just crazy long. So it was just something for me to get my mind off the ride and just everything going on in my life. And it turned into also, besides things I was writing about myself or people in my life or people that I knew, strangers. So like there's a poem in there. So it's actually one of my favorites, and people have been coming to me talking to me about this one. It's called We Forgot How to Skip. And it was literally me just watching this little girl and her dad literally skipping along on a rainy day outside of like my bus window. So things like that, like just observations, people, places, memories, visions, just things that just called to my attention. That it all became therapy for me, really. And then I just said, screw it to the other book. I'm like, this is more fun. And it just became this 6-7 year journey of this collection of poems that I was like, wow, I can't believe I have this many. There's like 80 plus poems that I didn't even realize, God, I wrote that much throughout this whole time. And then even down to the end of finishing editing with you guys, I was still writing more and editing more. And like little fun fact, the last poem I couldn't find because I knew I had written it. I remembered the title, couldn't find it. So I kept the title. I just rewrote it right before I like submitted it to you guys. I was like, this is probably going to be a better version, and maybe I'll find the other one day. But so it's like down to the minute, like the inspiration was like still going through with the book.
That's awesome.
So I have a question for you.
Yes.
Why do you write?
Oh, there's oh my goodness, there's so many reasons that connect me to writing. So Caroline, we used to talk about this in our writers' chats. I used to hate reading, and we talked about too how to be a good writer, you have to read. And as I got older, loved reading, and it was who I was reading, the books I was reading, and how I was moved by them, whether it was something they were like talking about personally or just this world that they created. It just inspired me to, I want to do that. I want to express how I'm feeling. Maybe it's going to help somebody. And then I just love how I feel when I'm in it. It's a form of therapy for me. It's a form of release, an escape. But I always was able to express better through writing. I think my confidence too kind of just grew through that. Poetry, just like I said, just came out of nowhere. I think that's where my love for writing has kind of been reborn. I think because I was always like, oh, I'm going to write stories and stories with dialogue in it, and this is like a different form of dialogue. But I just find that writing poetry, I think, is this newborn love for writing because it's so raw. and in the moment, and you can shorten it, lengthen it, combine it together, the poetry, and it just never like it's never finished. I think you have to kind of be okay with that sometimes, because it's like you'll look back and like, oh, I could have extended this, maybe I could have shortened this, but I just love almost like the no rules kind of like, especially with poetry. Like this has just helped me like reconnect with my love for writing with that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Amazing. Well, and so tell us, so you're talking about this a little bit, on the bus, you kind of see something and it inspires you, but what's your process like? Do you write in a journal? Do you sit down at your desk very formally? Do you do in the morning, afternoon, whenever you feel like it? How does that work for you?
It's so crazy. I would love to have a concrete routine. I would love to like every morning write or in the evening write. I do find that there is something about the evening that I do love to write. If I happen to find my way into my office, my home office, like sometimes I do write in there. And it's funny too, because you always think you have to have that place. It has to be in this room that I've created and it has all the things in it to make you write. But I find that I just kind of write anywhere. It's wherever I can grab paper and pen, or usually it's in the middle of the night now. It's just like literally on my phone. I'm like, it's 3-4 in the morning and my husband's having like his fifth dream. And I'm just like writing, and like, just get it out. So yeah, I don't really have a specific place. It's like everywhere. It was, like I said, during that time, if I'm traveling, if I just came back from a walk, I'll just jot it down on my phone really quick, the thoughts I have, or if I do designate time, it's somewhere in my house. It's a lot of it's been in my dining room, like kind of like where we are now. I've just kind of been writing. But yeah, I just kind of blurt it out on the paper. It doesn't make sense, and that's fine. I'll get back to it. So whether I'm typing it out on the computer, or if it's just on my phone, or if it's like my handwriting sucks. So it's hopefully I understand what I wrote if it's written down, and maybe something magical will come out of the words I thought I said. But yeah, it's kind of like anywhere, anytime, any kind of medium that I can find in that moment. I don't have a very specific structure. I think I'm just, I like variety in a lot of things. So I think that that's kind of where my tools and how I get it done kind of like comes out in my writing.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome. What about books? So we know we've talked about that a little bit, but what books, do you read any books about writing? What books have inspired you?
I'd have to say there's actually a book that I have to read that someone did tell me about. It's from Stephen King, and I hate that I forgot the title of it. That is a book I want to revisit, but it is from Stephen King. But another book that I kind of started reading, and I only kind of jumped to the chapters that I was interested in because I was already like at a certain part of my poetry book. So it's from Emily Maher. I hope I'm not messing up her last name, but it's The Meaning Method. And what I liked about this book is it kind of combines like two different worlds that I love. I love writing, but also like if anyone's interested or knows about like metaphysical studies, so like chakras, like kind of like your alignment. It's like we see this in yoga and when we practice, we meditate. So it's brilliant. Like she connects your chakras to your phases of writing. So your intentions of how to get your book, like the ideas formulated, and then like all the way through from like cover design and editing, and each chakra means all those different phases. So I like that because I feel like my creativity comes from the metaphysical as well. So that was a big part in helping me with my poetry book. And it's definitely something I want to revisit more in depth when I start a book from scratch, because I feel like that's a book too. Like if you know what you have, but you don't know where to go, that might be like a good start. So definitely The Meaning Method, I would suggest from books I've read.
I don't know that one, but I'm thinking of someone I should recommend it to and then read it myself. So that's great.
And she's great too. Like she has like a YouTube channel, and she kind of like does these little workshops based on the book. And I did actually have a coaching call with her way back. So it kind of helped me to understand, like, even like my introduction of my book, like where I wanted it to go. So it was a good pairing with the book and her.
That's
so
great.
That's awesome.
That's great. So what's next? Sorry, I'm going to interrupt because I'm dying to know. So you said you mentioned book. So is there another book that you're working on right now, or?
Yeah, it's so funny because I do open mic nights at the Barnes and Noble where I live, poetry open mic nights, and we do workshops. They meet like about 2 Thursdays a month, and one of those Thursdays we're doing workshops. So one of the prompts, it just ignited this next book that I didn't realize I wanted to do, but it's definitely going to be, I'm already kind of like figuring that out. So it's definitely, I don't know if I'm going to make it a chapbook or depending on how much I have that goes with it, but it's definitely, I am definitely working on another poetry book. I think poetry is where I'm going to be going now. I never thought it would be this route for me. At some point I want to do like other books. I want to do a children's book, always wanted to do that. And I may want to revisit some other ideas that I've had in the past, but I think there's at least that I'm aware of at this present moment in time. There's about 2 poetry books I actually want to do after this one. But I'm going to enjoy this ride right now. I'm going to make sure
no pressure.
We live in this realm right now, but I definitely have like more that I want to tap into for sure.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Well, so what if you could go back to yourself when you were whatever age feels like the age you started thinking about being a writer? What advice would you give yourself?
Ooh, that's a good question. I like that one. I would definitely say, don't worry about how long it takes to write this book. Don't worry about time frames. There's like a difference. There's a difference between, are you procrastinating, or are you just, life does get in the way and you just got to be okay with it's going to take some time, because you don't want to rush things. Like this book in particular, I could have gotten it done earlier, but there's a lot of stuff that was going on personally with me that I'm actually kind of happy seeing the result of what came out of it. Like even down to the end, adding poems and editing them the way I did. I would definitely tell myself, like, just be okay with how long it takes to get it done, because you'll be surprised at how beautiful the product is when you don't rush. And just knowing the difference though of like, are you taking your time because you don't believe in yourself, or are you like doing things you shouldn't be doing, or you're just like really understanding the difference of time, like what it's giving you, like the gift it's giving you. I would say that.
It's beautiful.
Great wisdom.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I'm just going to jump in and say that if you would like to get Andrea's book, which I think everybody should, you can find it on our website, mountainash.press. You can find it on Andrea's website, and you can find it at all of the retailers. So we hope that you find this book and that it makes you as happy as it made us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate this.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.